Elephant refused to cross the dry riverbed. Then rangers heard crying beneath the sand. The first ranger to notice the elephant was Amina Okello. It was 6:14 in the morning in Katala Wildlife Reserve, just as the first heat of the day began to rise from the cracked earth. Dawn spread slowly across the savanna, painting the acacia trees in soft gold and turning the distant hills purple beneath a pale sky. The dry season had lasted too long. Every morning the land seemed quieter than the day before. Grass had turned brittle and yellow. Waterholes had shrunk into dark mud. Dust clung to the tires of the ranger trucks, to the boots of the patrol teams, to the eyelashes of every animal that came searching for water and found only memory. Amina drove the lead vehicle along the eastern patrol route with her partner, Jonah Reed, sitting beside her and scanning the horizon through binoculars. They were looking for signs of distress: thin antelope, lions moving too close to villages, poachers near the old boundary fence. But what they found was a lone elephant standing at the edge of the Mbara riverbed. Amina slowed the truck. The elephant was a matriarch, large and old, with one broken tusk and deep wrinkles folded around her eyes. Rangers knew her well. They called her Nala. She led one of the reserve's largest family herds and had survived droughts, fires, poaching attempts, and the loss of more calves than Amina liked to think about. Nala stood with her front feet in the sand. Behind her, the rest of the herd waited. 10 elephants, maybe 12. Females, juveniles, and 2 small calves. They shifted restlessly in the dust, ears fanning, trunks lifting toward the dry river crossing. But Nala would not move. Jonah lowered the binoculars. "That's strange," Amina nodded. She knows this crossing. Every year, the herd used the Mbara riverbed to reach the southern waterholes. Even in dry season, the route was familiar. The banks were low. The sand was usually firm. By now, Nala should have crossed and led the others into the shade beyond the reeds. Instead, she stood frozen. Then she lifted one foot and placed it carefully on the sand. Almost instantly, she pulled it back. Her ears spread wide. A deep rumble moved through her body. The calves behind her pressed closer to their mothers. Amina turned off the engine. The sudden silence was heavy. Nala touched the sand again with the tip of her trunk. Then she stepped backward. Jonah frowned. Maybe the ground is unstable. Maybe. But Amina kept watching Nala's face. This was not simple hesitation. The elephant was listening. Her massive body stood perfectly still, trunk lowered, ears slightly forward, one foot raised above the dry sand as if she could feel something moving beneath it. Then Nala did something Amina had never seen before. She turned away from the crossing and walked along the riverbank instead. The herd did not follow at first. Nala stopped, looked back, and gave a low rumble. One by one, the elephants moved after her. Amina started the truck again. "We follow," she said. Jonah glanced at her. "Because she changed routes?" "Because Nala doesn't change routes for no reason." Before we continue, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another unforgettable animal story. Sometimes the wild gives a warning before humans understand the danger beneath their feet. The herd moved slowly along the dry riverbed. Nala stayed close to the edge, never stepping fully into the center. Every few meters she lowered her trunk and pressed it into the sand. Sometimes she paused for several seconds. Sometimes she rumbled softly, and the younger elephants answered with nervous sounds. The riverbed looked empty. Only pale sand, cracked mud, dry reeds, and scattered stones. But Amina knew appearances could lie in drought country. A river that seemed dead on the surface could still hold pockets of water below. Soft mud could hide under dry crust. An animal or a person could break through and vanish almost without a trace. After nearly half a mile, Nala stopped. She stood beside a bend in the riverbed where the sand dipped slightly and old tree roots twisted through the bank. The herd gathered behind her, tense and silent. Nala lifted her trunk high, then she trumpeted. The sound tore through the morning, not a warning to predators, not a call to the herd, a distress call. Amina's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Jonah sat forward. What is it? Nala stepped into the riverbed at last, but only a few paces. She planted her feet carefully, then began sweeping sand with her trunk. Dust rose around her. The other elephants grew agitated. One juvenile tried to move forward, but an older female blocked him. Nala scraped again. Then she stopped. Her trunk hovered over one patch of sand. Amina heard it then. At first, she thought it was the wind moving through dry reeds, but the sound came again, thin, muffled, impossible, crying. Jonah turned pale. Did you hear that? Amina was already reaching for the radio. Base, this is Patrol 1. We are at the eastern bend of the Mbara Riverbed, approximately half a mile north of Crossing 3. We have possible trapped animal or person beneath the sand. Request immediate rescue support, medical team, and digging equipment. The radio crackled. Repeat, trapped beneath sand. Amina looked toward Nala. The elephant stood over the spot, rumbling so low the truck seemed to vibrate. Affirmative, Amina said, and the elephants found it first. They exited the truck slowly. Approaching elephants on foot was always dangerous, especially a distressed herd. But Nala did not charge. She did not retreat either. She stood between the rangers and the strange depression in the sand, watching them with ancient dark eyes. Amina stopped at a respectful distance. Nala, she whispered, though she knew the elephant did not need her words. Show us. The matriarch touched the sand again. Then she stepped back, just enough. Amina and Jonah moved forward carefully. The sand near the bend looked disturbed. Not freshly dug exactly, but sunken in a way that made Amina's stomach tighten. A cracked crust had formed over a hollow beneath. A small patch trembled when the muffled cry came again. This time it was clearer. A child. Help! Jonah dropped to his knees. Amina grabbed his shoulder. Careful, the crust could collapse. He froze. They needed to dig, but one wrong movement could bury whoever was beneath even deeper. Amina shouted toward the radio. We have a child under the sand. Repeat, a child. Send all units now. The herd shifted restlessly behind them. Nala rumbled. Amina looked at the riverbank and saw marks she had missed before. Small footprints, human. They came down from the northern side, crossed a patch of hard mud, and disappeared near the sunken sand. Beside them were smaller drag marks, and something bright blue half buried near a root, a sandal. Amina's breath caught. There may be more than one, she said. Jonah looked at her. Then from beneath the sand a second sound came, not the child who had called out. A weaker cry, a baby animal. Nala answered with a deep trembling rumble. Jonah's eyes widened. What is down there? Amina stared at the sand. I don't know. Rescue support arrived in 12 minutes. It felt like an hour. 2 more ranger vehicles came first, followed by a medical jeep and a small excavating crew from the reserve maintenance team. Dr. Miriam Saeed, the reserve veterinarian, jumped from the second vehicle, carrying a medical pack and scanning the elephant herd immediately. You brought me elephants and a buried child, she asked breathlessly. Nala brought us both, Amina said. They worked fast but carefully. Rangers formed a loose barrier to keep people from crowding the sand. No one wanted to frighten the elephants, and no one wanted vibrations to collapse the hollow. The maintenance crew brought shovels, boards, ropes, and a portable ground probe usually used to check collapsed burrows. The crying continued, sometimes loud, sometimes terrifyingly quiet. Amina lay flat on the bank and called down toward a narrow crack in the sand. Can you hear me? A boy's voice answered. Yes. What's your name? Kofi. How old are you? 8. Amina closed her eyes for 1 second. All right, Kofi, listen to me. We are rangers. We're going to get you out. Try not to move too much. My sister, he cried. Amina's heart stopped. Your sister is with you? No, she fell. I can't see her. I hear her. Jonah whispered. 2 children. Then Kofi added something that made every adult go silent. And the baby elephant. Nala lifted her trunk and gave a low call. Dr. Miriam turned sharply toward the herd. One of the calves? Amina scanned the elephants. The herd had two visible calves, both standing beside their mothers, but there should have been three. Nala's youngest granddaughter, a tiny calf born only weeks earlier, was missing. The truth unfolded with horrifying clarity. A hidden underground water pocket had formed beneath the dry riverbed. The surface had crusted over in the sun, appearing solid. The small calf must have stepped onto it earlier that morning and broken through into the hollow beneath. Two village children, likely crossing the reserve edge or following livestock paths, had found the trapped calf and tried to help. Then the sand collapsed again. Now the calf and two children were trapped below. Nala had heard them, or felt them. Elephants could detect vibrations through the ground. Amina knew that. They sensed distant rumbles, storms, even footsteps through their feet. Nala had likely felt the cries and movements beneath the riverbed before any human could. That was why she refused to cross. That was why the herd waited. That was why she led the rangers to this exact spot. The rescue became even more delicate. A trapped elephant calf changed everything. It was heavy, frightened, and capable of kicking in panic. If the hollow collapsed fully, all three lives could be lost. Dr. Miriam took charge of the animal side. Amina focused on the children. They inserted a small inspection camera through a widened crack in the sand. The screen flickered, then showed darkness, roots, and the curved wall of a hollowed-out section beneath the riverbed. Then a face appeared. Kofi, dust-covered, tear-streaked, alive. He was wedged against a root chamber, unable to climb out because the sand above him kept crumbling. A few feet away, partly hidden by fallen sand, was his little sister. Amina felt her throat close. She looked no older than 5. Her name, Kofi shouted, was Amara. She was conscious but weak. Beyond them, in a deeper part of the hollow, lay the elephant calf. The calf was trapped on its side, half submerged in wet sand, trunk moving weakly. Dr. Miriam's face hardened. "We need 2 openings," she said. "One for the children, one wider for the calf. We cannot pull the calf through the same shaft." Nala rumbled again from the bank. The entire herd answered. The sound rolled over the dry riverbed like thunder under the earth. For the next 40 minutes, the rescue team worked with a kind of controlled urgency that left no room for fear. Boards were laid across the crust to distribute weight. Sand was removed by hand near the children. A second team dug from the side bank toward the deeper hollow where the calf lay. Every few minutes, the ground shifted and everyone froze until the trembling stopped. Amina stayed near the child opening. "Kofi, keep talking to me. I'm scared. I know, you are being very brave. Amara is sleepy." Amina's pulse spiked. "Keep her awake. Tell her a story." "I don't know any." "Tell her about your favorite food." Kofi sniffled. "Mangoes." "Good. Tell her about mangoes." Down in the dark, the boy began speaking in a shaking voice about yellow mangoes from his grandmother's tree, about sticky fingers, about Amara always eating too fast and getting juice on her dress. Amara made a faint sound. Amina held on to that sound like a rope. At last, the opening was wide enough. A small ranger named Tessa volunteered to go down first. She was secured with ropes, lowered carefully into the hollow, and reached Kofi within seconds. "He's stable," she called up. "Scared, scraped up, no major bleeding." Kofi was lifted out first. The moment he reached the surface, he tried to turn back. "My sister!" "We're getting her," Amina promised. Paramedics wrapped him in a blanket and moved him aside, but he kept watching the hole. Tessa reached Amara next. The little girl was more deeply trapped, one leg pinned beneath compacted wet sand. It took agonizing minutes to free her without causing another collapse. When she finally emerged, limp and silent in Tessa's arms, everyone stopped breathing. Dr. Miriam rushed to her. Amina knelt beside them. The child's chest moved, barely. "She's breathing," Miriam said. "Weak pulse, hypothermia, and shock. Get her to the medical jeep. Kofi sobbed when he saw her. She's alive, Amina told him. She's alive. But the calf was still below, and Nala knew it. The matriarch moved forward as the medical team carried the children away. Several rangers lifted their arms, trying to keep the herd back without provoking them. Nala did not charge. She simply stood at the edge of the dig site and reached her trunk toward the hollow. From below came a faint answering squeal. Doctor, Miriam's eyes filled with tears. She's still fighting. The side tunnel toward the calf was nearly complete, but the sand around the calf had compacted like cement. The baby was exhausted and dehydrated. Its trunk moved but weakly. Its breathing was fast. They needed to widen the opening enough to slide straps beneath the calf and lift with the winch, but every scoop of sand made the ceiling tremble. Amina watched Nala. The old elephant stood absolutely still now, not because she was calm, because she seemed to understand that any movement might make things worse. The younger elephants paced behind her, but Nala held them back with occasional low rumbles. Even in distress, she commanded the herd. It took another hour. The sun climbed higher. Heat began pressing down on the riverbed. Sweat streaked the dust on everyone's faces. The medical jeep left with the children toward the clinic near the reserve gate. Kofi's parents had been located in a nearby settlement and were on their way. Still, the rescue team dug. Finally, they reached the calf. Dr. Miriam crawled close enough to examine her quickly. Dehydrated, bruising, no obvious fractures. We need to lift now. The straps were placed. The winch line tightened. Everyone stepped back except the essential team. The calf cried. Nala answered. The sound was so deep and full of pain that Amina felt it in her bones. Slow, Dr. Miriam ordered. Slow. The calf rose inch by inch from the collapsed hollow. Wet sand released with a sucking sound. For one frightening moment, the calf slipped sideways and several people shouted. Then the straps held. The baby elephant was lifted onto solid ground. She lay there, coated in mud and sand, sides heaving. Nala moved forward. No one stopped her this time. The matriarch approached the calf slowly, trunk extended. She touched the baby's face, ears, back, and legs, checking every inch with trembling tenderness. The calf lifted her trunk weakly and touched Nala's mouth. The herd erupted in rumbles. The sound moved through the air like a living thing. Amina wiped her eyes with the back of her dusty hand. Dr. Miriam laughed once, breathless and broken. She's alive. The calf was too weak to stand at first. The rangers gave her space but stayed ready. Dr. Miriam administered fluids and checked for injuries. Nala remained beside the calf the entire time, her huge body casting shade over the little one. After nearly 30 minutes, the calf tried to rise. Her legs shook. She collapsed. Nala nudged her gently. The calf tried again. This time, with Nala's trunk supporting her side, she stood. The entire rescue team went silent. The baby wobbled, then leaned against Nala's front leg. The matriarch rested her trunk over the calf's back. Amina had seen many things in her years as a ranger: predators hunting, mothers grieving, rain returning after drought. But few moments had ever struck her like that one. A child's cry beneath the sand, a matriarch's refusal to cross, a herd waiting in dust, and life brought back from under the earth. By afternoon, the riverbed had been marked as dangerous. The crossing was closed. Rangers set up warning barriers and began checking other dry sections for hidden hollows. Villages near the reserve were alerted. Kofi and Amara survived. Amara spent 2 days in the clinic recovering from dehydration, shock, and a bruised leg. Kofi had scrapes, a mild concussion, and a story he would repeat for the rest of his life. When Amina visited them the next day, Kofi was sitting beside his sister's bed, holding her hand. "Did the baby elephant live?" he asked before anything else. Amina smiled. "She did." Kofi's face crumpled with relief. "I thought she was going to die." "You helped her." He shook his head. "We got stuck." You stayed with your sister, Amina said, and you called for help. He looked down. No one heard us. Amina thought of Nala standing at the crossing. Yes, she said softly. Someone did. News of the rescue spread across the reserve and nearby communities. Some people focused on the children, some on the calf, some on the strange wisdom of the elephant who refused to cross the dry riverbed. Scientists who later examined the site explained that elephants are deeply sensitive to low-frequency vibrations. Nala may have felt the movements underground. She may have heard muffled cries through the sand. Her refusal to cross likely saved the herd from further collapse and led the rangers to the hidden hollow. Amina accepted the science, but she also knew what she had seen. Nala did not simply avoid danger, she led them to it. For the next several weeks, rangers monitored the herd closely. The calf recovered well. She was named Safi by the team, meaning pure or clear, because she had been pulled from a place where hidden water had nearly taken her life. Nala remained fiercely protective. Safi stayed close to her mother and grandmother, rarely more than a few steps away. When the herd finally crossed the reserve weeks later, they did not use the old Mbara crossing. Nala chose a higher route along the rocky bank. The others followed. Amina watched from the truck. Jonah sat beside her, quiet. You think she remembers? He asked. Amina looked at Nala, walking slowly beneath the acacias, Safi safe at her side. I think elephants remember what matters. The rescue changed the reserve. Dry riverbeds were no longer treated as harmless, empty spaces. Patrols began checking them after storms, drought cracks, and shifting underground water. Local children were taught never to cross unstable sand near old river channels. Warning signs were installed at common footpaths. Kofi and Amara's village created a safe route around the reserve boundary, marked with stones and painted posts. Kofi insisted on helping. So did Amara, once her leg healed. She painted a small elephant on one of the posts. Amina asked her why. So people remember who hurt us, Amara said. Years passed. The drought broke. Rain returned one night with such force that the whole savannah seemed to breathe again. The Mbara River flowed for the first time in nearly 2 years. Grass sprouted green across the plains. Waterholes filled. Frogs sang in places that had been dust only weeks before. Amina stood in the rain outside the ranger station and let herself get soaked. Jonah came out beside her. You're smiling, he said. So are you. I am not. You are. They stood there, listening to rain on the tin roof. Somewhere in the dark, elephants rumbled. Several years later, Amina saw Safi again near the southern waterhole. The calf had grown into a strong young elephant, still smaller than the adults but healthy, curious, and full of restless energy. Nala stood nearby, older now, moving more slowly but still unmistakably in command. Safi approached the water's edge and hesitated. Amina watched through binoculars. The young elephant lowered her trunk to the mud, feeling carefully before stepping forward. Just like Nala. Amina smiled. Lessons pass through herds the way rivers pass through land, not always visible, always shaping the future. Kofi grew too. He became fascinated by elephants after the rescue and later volunteered with the reserve's community education program. When school groups visited, he told them not the dramatic version but the true one. I thought I was saving the baby elephant, he would say. But really, her grandmother saved us all. Children always asked if he had been scared. He always said yes. Then he would point toward the dry riverbed map and explain how danger could hide beneath ordinary ground. Amara, quieter than her brother, became known for drawing elephants. One of her drawings hung in the ranger station for years. It showed a huge elephant standing beside a riverbed. Under the sand were 2 children and a calf. Above them, written in careful letters, were the words, "She listened through the earth." Amina kept that drawing even after the paper faded. One evening, nearly 10 years after the rescue, Amina drove alone along the old Eastern Patrol route. She had become senior ranger by then. Her knees ached more than they used to. Her hair carried threads of gray. Jonah had transferred to anti-poaching intelligence work. Dr. Miriam had retired, though everyone knew she still answered emergency calls if anyone dared ask. The sun was setting over the Mbara riverbed. It was dry again, though not as dangerously as that terrible year. Amina stopped the truck near the bend. The rescue site was quiet now. Grass grew along the bank. The warning post stood weathered but intact. Children no longer crossed there. Herds avoided the old hollow. Amina stepped out. The air smelled of dust and acacia blossoms. Then she heard a low rumble. Across the riverbed, a herd emerged from the trees. Nala's herd. Nala herself was gone by then. She had died 2 seasons earlier, peacefully, according to tracking reports, surrounded by family beneath a stand of fever trees. Amina had cried when she heard, but at the front of the herd now stood Safi, grown, powerful, a young matriarch in the making. She approached the riverbed and paused at the edge. Behind her, the herd waited. Safi lowered her trunk to the sand. She touched it once, then again. She listened. Amina stood beside her truck, barely breathing. After a long moment, Safi turned from the old crossing and led the herd along the safer rocky route, just as Nala once had. Amina felt tears rise. The land remembered. The herd remembered. The story had not ended when the children were pulled from the sand or when the calf stood again beside her grandmother. It had continued in every careful step, every taught path, every warning passed from one generation to the next. Amina looked toward the fading light. "Thank you, Nala," she whispered. The elephants moved into the evening, dust rising around their feet like smoke. And somewhere beneath that quiet landscape, hidden waters still moved under dry sand, shaping hollows, carrying echoes, reminding anyone humble enough to listen that the earth is never truly silent. That was what Nala had known, what the rangers had learned, what Kofi and Amara had survived to tell. An elephant refused to cross the dry riverbed. People thought she was afraid. Then they heard crying beneath the sand, and by following the wisdom of a matriarch who listened through her feet, they saved 2 children, 1 calf, and changed the way an entire reserve understood the ground beneath them.